everybody can compete. And the one good thing about this, we're talking America versus socialism. A lot of people say that for us to compete on this, we got to buy a Ericsson or a Nokia. But no, we can do this another way.
Well, and also keep in mind that those companies are migrating to a virtualized network as well. This is not something the government's going to have to force upon the companies or force providers to buy. They want to move in that direction. It's in their best interest to gain the efficiencies of the cloud technology. So it's not about forcing anyone. We're going to use market forces and let the market drive us in that direction, while at the same time ensuring that our national security is completely protected from the harmful things that the Chinese government is trying to do.
So, Brendan, what we're talking about here is the triumph of the free market. It will reduce prices, and it will allow us to out-innovate, right?
That's exactly right. If you look at the data, going back to December of 2016, internet speeds are now up 85% in the country. Why is that? We've gotten big government out of the way and empowered the private sector to invest and compete. More fiber, the high-speed lines that connect these 5G networks, were built out last year in the U.S. than ever before, smashed prior records. And one thing I've heard loud and clear at this conference so far that touches on freedom on the internet is free speech. There's a lot of concern right now about conservative bias on online platforms. And I don't think the answer to that is to do nothing. I've been speaking up about it. There was a leaked document recently from Twitter that said they were soon going to enable political ideologues to stamp tweets as misinformation based on their perspective. I don't think that's the right thing. At a minimum, there's steps we can take. One of them is, why not empower people to make decisions for themselves? If you don't want MSNBC to be fact-checking the information you see on Twitter, I think you should be empowered to make that decision and turn those types of bias filters off.
This morning, I asked Twitter, what would you like to hear from the FCC? And here's one question.
People on Twitter, to be clear, not Twitter itself.
People on Twitter, that's right. And what we got is a number of questions. A number of them asked, and the most asked question was, does 5G cause cancer? Empress Dragon, Luke at TN, MAGA 2019, and others want to know the question. Answer, what's that?
No, not at all. In fact, there was a New York Times story that actually said that Russia, believe it or not, is planting this disinformation about 5G and health risks because they're behind the U.S. on the build-out of 5G. We looked at this at the FCC. We issued a decision about a month or two ago that reviewed all of the science. It is safe.
Okay, Mike, this is a question.
Let me answer it this way, too. I'm not a doctor, and neither is my colleague. We are technology policymakers. We rely on the agencies that are full and are knowledgeable about these matters, and they influence and they gave us the information that we were able to make sound policy decisions based on. You don't count on me being a doctor, because I'm not, but we do rely on those that are experts in the field and have made a decision that it is safe for use in human technology.
So all of this is just fake news.
Well, look, there's always concerns about new technology. That happens in every new evolution of what's going to come forward. You want to be concerned. You want to be knowledgeable. You expect the agencies to do the work that they have done, just like we have done.
Okay, I'm going to read another question. I should be doing this off my phone, but my wife has disconnected my internet. So
it is the analog version here.
Yeah. Okay. John Martin from Twitter, not on Twitter, from Twitter says, what is the FCC doing about U.S. companies like Google assisting the Chinese regime to spy on its own people? Now, I don't think this is an FCC question, but it really is critical for us. What do you think?
There's little at the FCC for us to do from a jurisdiction perspective, but I'll say this. The hypocrisy here is stunning. Those in Silicon Valley have no problem telling the rest of the country what we should think, what we should believe, what our values are. And the second it comes to getting into a country with nearly 2 billion people, all of a sudden those values they preach to us kind of go by the wayside. So I think the hypocrisy here is stunning. I will say there is a tough decision for these companies. Do you go into these countries and offer at least a taste, a glimpse of freedom, or do you stay out of those countries? That's the tough conversation to have.
Mike?
Well, look, we only have so much jurisdiction. There are a lot of federal agencies that look at this matter, but we are incredibly sympathetic to the arguments that have been made and that are presented in terms of the harm that these high-tech companies present, in terms of their censoring of American conservatives, the work that they're trying to do internationally in the most harmful countries in the world, and how that has built up those networks to cause harm to people throughout the world. So we're mindful of that. We use our voice to help amplify the need to address those matters, but there's only so much we can do directly.
Brendan, we only got a few seconds left. How dangerous is Huawei to the United States?
We cannot treat it as anything other than a threat to our collective security. China, Huawei that does their bidding, they have a list of malign conduct longer than a CVS receipt. The bribery, the corruption. So it's something that we take seriously. That's why we're moving to take this equipment out of the network. Because look, with 5G, it's not just going to be about text messages and cat memes going over the internet, as much as I enjoy a good cat meme, is every single thing that we value: banking, transportation, healthcare. So if this network is compromised, every single thing that we value is compromised. That's why the president's taking it seriously, and that's why we're taking it seriously.
Huawei is stealing us blind. Huawei is stealing us blind. China is stealing us blind. Join me in this chant: stop Huawei, stop China. Stop Huawei, stop China. Stop Huawei, stop China. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, a conversation with Deputy Secretary Eric Hargan and Secretary Robert Wilkie, moderated by Charlie Giroux.
Thank you again, CPAC. As you may have noticed in your program, when this segment was first put together, we had something very different in mind. Secretary Alex Azar was to be our principal guest along with Secretary Wilkie, but as many of you may know, he was called to other duties this afternoon for a very important press conference with the President of the United States. And we all know that's who you're really waiting to hear. But we are delighted to have today with us the Deputy Secretary of HHS, Eric Hargan, who has got fans. Who has a distinguished career in that department and who, in addition to other things on his very impressive resume, was a senior fellow at ACU once upon a time. And also joining us today is the Secretary of the Veterans Affairs, Robert Wilkie, who comes from a distinguished military family. His father was a career artillery officer, and he himself is a distinguished officer, a colonel, if I'm not mistaken. And we thank you, sir, for your service. Thank you. And as all of us are very much aware, coronavirus dominates the news. It's why the President and Secretary Azar were on television today. It is the conversation of left, right, and center. So I want to just give you, distinguished experts, the opportunity to tell us where we are now and how people should be regarding and thinking about this epidemic.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And yes, the reason I'm here is actually that there is an ongoing or just recently concluded press conference with the President, the Vice President, Secretary Azar, and a lot of our public health professionals dealing with the coronavirus. The latest is that we have had the first confirmed death in the United States of coronavirus. There are more cases coming into the United States at this point. This is something we've anticipated, and I want everybody to be clear that We have the best public health system in the world. We have great professionals working on this. And frankly, the early aggressive response that was taken under the President's leadership to ban travel by non-citizens from China to the United States bought us precious days and weeks to prepare for this. So you know, the fact that we took this aggressive response, we took it early, meant that we have had time to work with state and local partners to prepare for the disease. We've had time to start on vaccines and therapeutics to address the disease. So all of that has been great. And really, no matter what happens right now, those decisions that were taken, they really look wiser every day in retrospect.
Were there any particularly tough decisions, Secretary?
Yeah, well, I mean, early on, when the decision was made to ban some people, non-citizens, from coming to China, from China to the United States, it was criticized. China was very critical of us for taking this. We took it relatively early, and other countries, some countries followed our lead in this case. It was criticized in the United States. Why are we picking on the Chinese? Is this racist? There were all the usual allegations that we have in modern America about these things. But of course, it was a public health-driven decision. And as I say, I think we can all be happy that that decision was made.
Secretary, yes, exactly. Secretary Wilkie.
Well, we are the largest healthcare system in the United States. We are constantly preparing, rehearsing for things like hurricanes and earthquakes. So we have been working through this problem for the last weeks since the President began to move so early. It's given us time for a breather, so we do things like check our supply chain, make sure our people are properly prepared. We'll be ready if we are called upon.
The last administration, I'm with them. The last administration believed that government knew what was best and that government control of health care was ultimately in the best interests of the people of the United States. Thank God the Trump administration has taken a radically different view, and they are focused on patient care, patient options, et cetera. So I would like to tell our audience today, if you would please, how both of your departments are carrying out that really important policy shift. Secretary Wilkie.
So let me just say that the President of the United States, this President, is the first president, was the first candidate to ever put veterans at the center, first of his campaign and then of his administration. No president has ever spoken more eloquently or forcefully than this president has. And part of his philosophy, the philosophy that has unleashed the American economy back to front and center, has been with veterans. We have expanded choice. We have substituted the interests of the bureaucracy of VA with the interests of the veteran. The veteran is at the centerpiece of his health care or her health care. Since the President's signature legislation came online on June 6th, we have sent 2.5 million veterans into the private sector for care that they need when they need it. And this President has finally found a way to keep so many veterans out of the emergency room by offering them for the first time urgent care, so that when they get a cold, when they have the flu, when they have a sprained ankle, they don't go through the trauma of an emergency room. And last thing I will say, because of the title and the focus of this conference, socialism in America will kill the promise that Abraham Lincoln made 155 years ago next week in his second inaugural, the most spiritually righteous address ever given by a president, that we would take care for those who have borne the battle and for the widows and the orphans. If socialism ever comes to America, that sacred promise will be destroyed and our warriors will go to the back of the line. So thank you to President Trump.
Very hard.
Yeah, you know, and for our part, with the same thing, we've given an emphasis in the healthcare system on really Americans getting more choice and more options in their healthcare rather than fewer. So, for example, in Medicare Advantage, now we just through one change, we got 1,200 more plan options available to seniors. Now, and no surprise, now the premiums are down to the lowest level since 2007. So we got 13 years we've brought the prices down because we've opened more options. That's no surprise to us that that's what's happening. Part D premiums have gone down. The drug premiums for seniors have gone down 13%. These are all achievements, and over $2.6 billion have been saved by America's seniors in the past 3 years alone in the Medicare Advantage program. So these are great achievements for us.
Secretary Wilkie, I just want to ask you real quickly about President Trump's commitment, and it is a huge one, to fighting the opioid crisis. My home state is Pennsylvania. I hail from there, and as you know, that's one of the states that's been hardest hit. And so I know firsthand the tragic and heartbreak of families who have lost loved ones or find those trapped in addiction. How's our progress?
Well, our progress is astronomical. We have reduced the percentage of opioid prescriptions in VA by 51%. But it comes to something that people in an audience like this know. It is about changing the culture. It is about treating the pain instead of the brain. It is about taking warriors and offering them new solutions like yoga and Tai Chi, things that get at the source of their distress. As the son of a combat soldier from Vietnam, if I had told my father after his wounding in Cambodia that we would say, "Sir, we're going to take care of you with yoga and Tai Chi," my nose would have been flat against my face.
He'd have taken care of you.
But that is part of the transformation that we've had under this president, to open the aperture on new thought, open the aperture on choice, and treat veterans where they are and when they need it.
Ladies and that's just such a great answer. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking these two great American leaders for their leadership, for what they're doing, for what President Trump is doing, and for what all of us are doing to keep America great and to keep us
Ladies and gentlemen, please bring your attention forward for a short documentary, The World is Watching.
Guess what? Today's CPAC is the biggest and best we've ever seen. Folks, we are making a difference.
Well, it's that time of year again, CPAC time. The leaders of the conservative movement have long met in the Washington area each year for an event called CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference.
It's an amazing conference, super amazing leadership team.
The ACU has been the single most uniting force behind the conservative movement.
It has been a gathering place for decades with presidents and lawmakers and pop cultural figures.
If you're going to CPAC at National Harbor, volume right now in Oxon Hill on the Beltway at 210.
I understand there are 13,000 people here. It goes up a little bit each year.
Matt and the ACU bring together so many conservatives from around the country in one place.
I'm reminded of the Reagan Revolution, and we're trying to light the match of that revolution again in a positive way.
Quietly, mysteriously, the Republican Party has become
the party of ideas.
The organization's proven itself over time from Ronald Reagan to Donald Trump.
I actually started quite a while ago in CPAC, came here, probably made my first real political speech, and I enjoyed it so much that I came back for a second one, then a third, then I said, what the hell, let's run for president, right?
Well, the president may have won an award for being one of the longest presidents to actually speak at a CPAC event. This speech went well over 2 hours.
It's wonderful to be back with so many great patriots, old friends, and brave, young conservatives. What a future you have.
Freedom, as Reagan told us, is not passed down in the bloodstream from one generation to another. Freedom, instead, you got to stand up, you got to fight for it, you got to defend it.
I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you.
People. If you ain't trying to hear nothing about no socialism and all that foolishness, you need to come here with other like-minded people that's talking about capitalism, that's talking about you being free.
Our freedom, our people, our traditions, our families. But without freedom, none of it is possible. And that comes from the big guy, not the government.
All these young people here, everywhere you look, there are groups of millennials who tell us they are dedicated to growing the conservative movement, but admit, frankly, it's not cool on many college campuses to come out and say you're a conservative.
We're not going to have a conservative movement if we lose this generation.
Today I'm proud to announce that I will be very soon signing an executive order requiring colleges and universities to support free speech if they want federal research done.
You've gotten coverage this year that I'm not sure I can recall ever you getting, so congratulations.
Amazing energy. It's the grassroots activist Super Bowl.
It's obviously the Super Bowl for conservatives.
Being conservative, being liberty-minded, being freedom-based, and CPAC is what makes America great.
Good morning, deplorables. How about that?
It's our first CPAC. We're just here taking it all in.
It's my first CPAC, having an awesome time, but the reason I'm here is President Trump saving our country. I never would have come doing for President Trump.
You know what I like about this? Number one, I'm in love, and you're in love. We're all in love together. We've done something that nobody's ever done.
Well, President Trump loves CPAC, and CPAC loves President Trump. It's a mutual, strong relationship. It's the fact that the president knows that when he comes to CPAC, he's at home. He's with his people.
You know, I first went to CPAC during the Reagan years, where Reagan was a conservative president, but CPAC was much to the right of even where President Reagan was. And now it is right in the center. It is the Republican Party.
How's CPAC doing? Good? Huh? My man, stand up, please, will you? He's the one who said you should run. Right? Matt said, it's like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I made a speech, and then they do some kind of a straw poll. Who made the best speech? They voted, by far the best speech was Trump. He calls me, he says, you should run for politics. I say, what do I know about politics? But you know what? We learned quickly, and our country has never done better than it's doing right now, so it's pretty good. But thank you, Matt.
You know, a couple of years ago, when a whole new team of people started leading the ACU, we thought that what happened during the 4 days of CPAC was so important that it actually had to occur every moment of every day on the calendar year. You know, we're kind of stuck in the swamp, and most people obviously live very far away from the swamp for good reasons.
People all over the world who are saying it's now our time to pursue this kind of freedom. We've got about 28 different countries now that are asking us to help them put on CPACs in their own countries.
Sounds awfully exotic to this Kansas kid. We're going to go to Australia. We're going to have the first CPAC.
They have a combination of hope and desperation. They want to help their fellow countrymen pursue freedom and attain it. And at the same time, they are so aware of the forces arrayed against them.
It was rather shocking to see that the legislature in Australia literally wanted to ban us from coming, and some of our speakers.
If the Home Affairs Minister allows Raheem Kassam into the country, he is encouraging
a cavalcade of intolerance to continue at CPAC's Talkfest of hate.
The first Australian Conservative Political Action Conference will get underway in Sydney today amid ongoing controversy. The presence from Raheem Kassam has caused conflict, with Labor calling for the government to refuse him entry to Australia.
CPAC was a debate within the Australian Parliament, the very fact that we would go there. So what that tells me is that the First Amendment that we have in our Constitution, which is a concept that we think is mostly accepted in these other free countries, actually isn't.
Nearly did more to drum up publicity for a Conservative conference on the weekend than anyone else by demanding that one speaker be barred from the country and smearing any other Conservative who dared to turn up and discuss politics with other Conservatives.
We get to Australia. We were not arrested, but we ran into Antifa, hundreds of Antifa protesters protesting us in Sydney, Australia.
CPAC really must buck their ideas up. I'm told that only 200 protesters are expected today. You really must do better than that next year.
I went out to see it because I couldn't believe it. I thought Antifa was an American radicalized left-wing phenomenon. No, it's not. It's gone global.
What I'm really excited about what the American Conservative Union is doing is you're going to create relationships across borders between like-minded people.
You know, we are part of an international movement. Whatever our countries, we're fighting against these big globalist forces.
But everybody lining up and telling us that if we dared to vote for Brexit, plagues of black locusts would descend on our land, but it didn't matter. We voted Brexit, and then a few months later in America, despite the fact that on that very morning, the Huffington Post said that Hillary, the blessed Hillary, had a 98% chance of winning, and yet what happened? The Donald swept to victory. Who'd have believed that?
Some people have asked me, why is ACU getting involved in these international programs? We're the American Conservative Union, after all. We're not the International Conservative Union. The forces arrayed against us are growing faster than the alternative. You've got the George Soros billionaires and others who are funding these efforts. They don't like the idea of individual liberty. If we do not take this opportunity, freedom could be lost.
The whole world is watching. What does America do in 2020? It's not an American question. It's a question they're asking in all the major communities around the globe. We went to our third CPAC in Tokyo, Japan.
All these Asian leaders are coming to me saying, we have to have the U.S. leadership because collectively, we Asians cannot fight this on our own. If the U.S. stands alone in this world against socialist nations, we will lose.
Just as President Trump says, fake media is running rampant, especially here in Japan. Everything they say is a lie, and you really can't trust the news. And Japanese people don't really understand what's going on or why it's happening.
We think about the fact that our rights are slowly being eroded by runaway courts and by an increasingly radicalized and socialist Democrat Party. That is a fact, but it's not uniquely American. These rights are being eroded all over the globe.
One of the most serious challenges our countries face is the specter of socialism. It's the wrecker of nations and destroyer of societies.
They are watching America because they fear that if America ever goes socialist, in essence, America stops being America. That means that the future for their country is very dark, because what left-wing American presidents do through their foreign policy, they push the most radical parts of their agenda all over the globe.
Socialism and communism are about one thing only: power for the ruling class.
I fear the future of Japan is quite dangerous. Japan has gotten a little too used to peace. They're not prepared for what could happen if they don't wake up. There's going to be trouble.
You're going to have conversations that will improve understanding between different nations that don't even speak the same language. And Japan and America and countries like Australia and the UK, you know, these are the cornerstones of Western values and free markets.
we invited one of the Hong Kong protesters to address the audience, Andy Chan. When Andy left to go to the airport and when they went to board their plane, police arrested Andy because he was going to go to a CPAC in Tokyo.
As you all know, I was detained and arrested for riot when I departed to Japan. I'm now released without being charged and on bail. This is the second arrest I've encountered in a month.
They arrested him. That was shocking to me. I mean, first of all, why does CPAC matter that much? Why are these communists so afraid of letting someone simply give a speech?
ACU's founding charter, December 1964, is very clear of what we stand for and why. It includes opposing socialism everywhere we find it.
But I'm just one of the thousands who were arrested. And we anticipate that many more Hong Kong citizens will also be arrested in the future. The situation in Hong Kong is dire.
Protesters in Hong Kong are begging the United States and specifically President Trump to help them in their fight for democracy. Tonight, some prominent American conservatives are meeting them in the semi-autonomous territory.
This Hong Kong movement for democracy is something every American needs to pray for, needs to try to support, because the Chinese regime in Beijing is probably more vulnerable than we realize.
You're looking at a face-off on one of the main roads in Hong Kong this Sunday afternoon. At one end, protesters with umbrellas ready because of the tear gas which will be shot by police.
With the suppression that we're seeing from the Chinese communists towards these peaceful protesters, there was a genuine concern that Matt, Dan, and several other of the ACU staff would end up in jail.
We would hear people say, "I will die for freedom," and they meant it.
We're here to support you. I know.
This morning, anti-government protests in Hong Kong reaching a new level of violence.
Tens of thousands marched to the US consulate pleading with President Trump to liberate Hong Kong. The American flag held high as the crowd sang America's national anthem.
Strong leadership coming from President Trump has put some of these regimes on the precipice, and I'm hoping that they fall the right way, which is freedom for their people.
Shannon, I've just never seen anything like it. What you have is literally thousands of mostly what I would call students or kids, teenagers. Some as young as 12 years old have been arrested.
Something I hear all over the globe when I travel. People in MAGA hats. People saying, please tell your president that for the first time we have an American leader who's got our back, who's on our side.
They're willing to give their lives for this struggle. It's a very emotional thing to see young people committed to democracy.
It's completely the opposite of what they hear when they turn on CNN International in their country about how much the globe is so embarrassed of Donald Trump.
The movement is now receiving support from members of the Conservative Political Action Conference here in the U.S. The conservative group joined student protesters, some as young as 12.
I had a young man come up to me. I looked very American clearly on the streets of Hong Kong, and he said, "Are you with CPAC?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm with CPAC." He goes, "Thank you for being here with me." It makes you almost want to tear up. These are really important times.
Our last night in Hong Kong, this great patriot who stands for freedom, Jimmy Lai, invited us to his house.
And when we showed up at Jimmy's house, there were members of the media who were essentially communist spies from media outlets owned by the communist regime in Beijing. They were there to harass us, to make us feel unsafe.
Filming us as we were walking in, videotaping us, recording who we are, why we were there.
We had this conversation around the table. What's at stake? What are the chances that this comes out well for the people of Hong Kong? What are the chances that a Tiananmen Square type episode occurs? Will there be this violent, bloody crackdown? And as we said our goodbyes, we headed back to our hotel. We all went to sleep, and not many hours later, we were woken up to the news.
The home of Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai was attacked early Thursday morning by a firebombing.
Two masked men lit glass bottles on fire in front of Lai's residence and lobbed them at the gate. The firebombs were seen as an act of intimidation against the pro-democracy tycoon.
They were sending us a very clear message. Don't meet with Jimmy. They were sending Jimmy a very clear message. Don't meet with the CPAC guys. And I think they were also sending us a message that it was time for us to leave. We are in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a really important state for a lot of reasons.
It is great to have the ACU here in Minnesota, home to the only congressional delegation that makes Nancy Pelosi look moderate.
Today's September 11th, the 18th anniversary of September 11th, 2001.
Just in the backyard of where we stand today is a congresswoman who does not like America, who stands for Islamic radicalization. She's the one who said some people did something.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something.
So we went up there on 9/11. We held an event called Some People Did Something.
They've convoluted the whole idea of September 11th and yet another shaming for what they see as racism. And I think it's politically motivated, and I think we have to call it out and make it stop.
We invited Dr. Zuhdi Jasser to be with us today because 18 years ago, he was the man who stood on the grounds of 9/11 and said, it's not appropriate to build a mosque on these grounds. He's Muslim himself, but he understood what building a mosque on bombed territory would mean.
My family was kicked out of Syria and got political asylum here. Most Muslim majority countries don't have even close to the freedoms that we have here.
Some people did something. Well, people like Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, they did something. They helped rebuild America. They helped promote American values.
The one thing I kept hearing from the people of Minnesota was, why don't more people come here and talk to us? Nobody's showing up in Minnesota, but we're going to show up. It's ripe for the pickings for conservatives.
In Minnesota, the biggest thing we can do is get the message to the people. That's why I'm here today speaking in Minnesota. When I came out of my addiction, I'm going, okay, what's a liberal, what's a conservative? I'm going, gee, every one of my values fall right here in the conservative aisle. I've learned so much about this deep state swamp. They didn't have our president's back. We have the highest consumer confidence in history.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp.
I think it's that time of year again, folks. You know, it's just possible that Nancy Pelosi may attempt to rip up every page of the president's speech you're about ready to hear. But she will never be able to destroy the message of freedom, liberty, and American patriotism enshrined in all our hearts. Rip up all you want, Madam Speaker, but no matter how hard you try, you can't rip up the spirit of the American people and those yearning for freedom across the globe. Today, at this very moment, in the largest hall in our nation's capital, with over 26 million people watching online, hundreds of billions of social media impressions, and unquantifiable numbers of viewers on television, right now, right here, we mark the official start of the takedown of socialism in America. Hold your fire. Hold your fire. As conservatives, nationalists, libertarians, populists, Republicans, independents, and even some Democrats who don't recognize their party anymore, we have one simple goal: to put the final nail in the coffin of socialism in America. Socialism has never worked anywhere, anytime, for anyone, except for the dictators who pull all the strings. In short, socialism is a loser. In fact, socialism is so bad, it's even more tragic than a Jimmy Kimmel monologue. I like that one. But socialism is not just about making you poorer, sicker, more depressed. Socialism is about destroying the dignity of each person and depriving any deplorable of due process. And we watched this happen for the last 3 years as the Democrats attempted a coup to stop, to prosecute, and to remove our duly elected president, who was chosen by the American people to lead our country. The next time a Democrat tells you he's a democratic socialist, just ask him, do we even know the final results from the Iowa Democratic Caucus? You know, if you can't run a caucus, why would we trust you to run our government? President Obama, the Squad, and major Democrat candidates demand that we rethink America. Do you want to rethink America? That's the choice we have in front of us. The Democrats want to, quote, transform America, which literally means remake America. But what have we been doing? We've been making America great again. And who's leading that charge? President Donald J. Trump. And under his leadership, we're going to keep America great. Because President Trump is leading the battle against socialism, he's fighting for you. He is the voice of the forgotten, the once silent men and women of America. He stands with you. He loves you. And there's no doubt he loves our great country. And this next part gives me particular joy. Because Nancy Pelosi refused to say it, I'm going to say it. I have the high privilege and distinct honor to present to you the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause
want to thank you, Matt, and I'm thrilled to be back at CPAC with the thousands of proud American patriots who love our country, respect our flag, honor our history, uphold our laws, protect our Constitution, and always put America first, right? Been a long time. We had a great night yesterday in South Carolina. That was incredible. We filled up a stadium like you haven't seen. This stadium was packed and thousands of people outside. And I saw the competitors, our competitors that have like 2 people on a street corner. It's incredible what's going on. This is a movement like, honestly, like nobody's ever seen before. We say that. We say that. And you know, if it wasn't so, the fake news media would be all over us, right? They'd say it wasn't so. He exaggerated. I say it all the time. They never change it. You know, every once in a while you see somebody who did well, let's say well, in New Hampshire, or did well, not even win it, in Iowa. And the whole life of that person is made. Because we won the election. We did well in those places. Sit down, everybody, if you want. Sit down. We won the election. So it's great. And I came here and I got to know Matt and Mercedes early on, and I made a speech before I thought about doing this. They said, would you speak? I was very famous then, too. I guess more famous now. But I was very famous, and I made a speech, and they liked the speech. They said, you ought to run for president. I said, no, thanks. You remember that, Matt? You ought to run for president. We had a big crowd, and it was, The Apprentice was doing so well. It was like a hot, to put it mildly, show. And Matt said, you ought to run for president. I said, let me give it a little thought. And a couple of years later, we said, let's do it. And then they said, I never forget one of the people, respected guy, Charles Krauthammer, right? He said on, well, this isn't so good, but he said on Fox, he said, no, why would he do this? You have 17 of the most talented professionals ever assembled that are running. Why would he run? He's not going to run, and if he does, he's only doing it for fun. You think this has been fun? Does anybody think, Mercedes, you think this has been fun? I don't think you know. This has been just a ball. We've had a ball. But you know what? You know what? We're doing so well and we're doing so much. No administration has ever done what we've done in the first 3 years. Nobody. With tax cuts and Supreme Court judges and 218 judges. We're up to 218, including D.C. But together we're defeating the radical socialists, Democrats, the fake news media, the crooked politicians, and the hate-filled left-wing mob. And I told you I was going to be nice today, see? I said, let's be nice today. It's hard to be nice when they treat you so badly, right? Only a fool is nice when they treat you so badly. We're defending our faith, our values, our heritage, our borders, our rights, and our God-given freedoms. We're doing that. This is an incredible, look at all those people back there. This place has grown, look at, wow. Wow. That's fantastic. I don't know who they are, Matt, but they must be very special, this little group over here. For Matt to block out half the arena for this group of people. I'm trying to figure out, who are they? At first, I thought they were the fake news. I said, it's too bad they have such a good location. I don't know who you are, but you're very important. Yeah. Very important people. We're exposing the corruption of the Washington Democrats, and we're draining the Washington swamp. I just didn't know how dirty it would be. I didn't know how deep it would be. When I said drain the swamp, for a long time, you know, I was given that expression. The speechwriter gave it to me, said, drain the swamp. I said, that's so hokey. I said, that's the worst. I don't want to use it. Anyway, it ends up in one of the speeches. I said, we will drain the swamp, right? The place went crazy. I said, let's try it again. And we did it again, and the place went crazy. Now, here's the bad part. I never knew the swamp was so bad. It's really bad. but we're winning, and we're winning. Not easy, but we're winning. A lot of dirty people, a lot of very bad people, a lot of bad people, and I think justice will be had. I do believe that, or I wouldn't be very happy right now. We got through everything we got through. They gave us the Mueller hoax. They gave us the Russia crap. They gave us the one phone call that was a perfect phone call. Oh, let's get him out of office for that phone call. But you know, the Republicans stuck together, except Romney, of course, you know. Right? Low life. Except Romney, they stuck together. And even him, I got half a vote, so, you know. See, I was thinking, because he did actually vote one part. He couldn't do it all, you know, because he wanted to get some nice free publicity for himself. But it was 52.5 out of 53 votes. So I guess you could say that, right? 52.5, right? So think of it, the Republicans were fantastic. I tell you what, that's when you find out who your friends are, really. It is, and we had 52.5 votes, and in the House we had 107, think of it, 107 to nothing with the Republicans, 107 to nothing, and we got 3 Democrats, and one came over and left the Democrat Party. Jeff Van Drew. And really, together, we're preserving this exceptional nation that our ancestors fought and died to build. We are making America greater than ever before. We really are. I think it's going to be greater than ever before with what we're doing with our military and what we're doing also to get rid of very bad people. We have such bad people, and they're not people that love our country. We're getting people that really love our country, and it's so important. And if I wasn't able to fulfill that, no matter what other things we've done, I would not consider this journey to be a success. So just remember that. One of my most important promises to the American people was to end America's long-running wars in the Middle East. American forces, and we're all warriors, folks, but 19 years, I see the people, I go over and I say hello to those incredible soldiers over at Walter Reed. What talent you have at Walter Reed. Those doctors, by the way, they have to be the best in the world, what they can do. And I see the arms and the legs missing, and I see what's happened to some of these incredible, beautiful people. And I see the strength, the spirit that they have. Most of them, I mean, even if they can't walk, if they've lost both legs, they want to go back. Sir, we want to go back. I want to go back. And it's just incredible to see it. And I'm going to mention it a little bit later, but, you know, we knocked out Soleimani, the father of the roadside bomb. We killed him. And al-Baghdadi. Soleimani was the, they call him the father of the roadside bomb. He thought it was great. Oh, the great bomb. And, you know, he thought it was great. It kept getting bigger and more sophisticated. One young man, he said, it was my last day in Afghanistan, and they had the mine detectors. And he said, I trusted this man with my life. He was the best. I've never seen anything like it. He could detect those. We felt so safe. But unfortunately, his last day, they made him out of plastic so you couldn't detect him. And it went off, killed the man who was the detector, and badly, badly injured a lot of people. And he was one of them. And he said, think of it, sir. I said, why did it go off? He said, because they made it out of plastic, and the plastic doesn't get detected by the metal detector. And that was the last day, and he lost his legs. But we took that son of a bitch out, didn't we? Huh? Should have been done a long time ago. That should have been done a long time ago. That should have been done a long time ago. And al-Baghdadi, he's the father of ISIS, and we defeated ISIS in the Middle East. We have defeated 100% of the caliphate. But we said to the Europeans, hey, take your soldiers. We killed many, many terrorists. When I took over, by the way, it was a mess. There was so much, I hate to say this, Republicans, but they had maps and it was all red. Red meant ISIS. I hate to say it. I said, let's change the color. I actually did change the color. But they showed me maps. And large portions of Iraq and Syria, ISIS said, we don't want them ever to come here. And I had some great people and have some incredible generals. And I had a decision to make because that was just not, they were not doing it right. And we made the decision and we took them out. Remember, I got to 98% and I said, all right, now I can bring our people back home. Sir, and then what happened is the press, they didn't care, but they went crazy. He didn't complete the job. I was at 98%, Matt. They said he didn't complete the job. I said, General, complete the job. And they completed the job. But the Europeans should be helping us because many of those people that we're guarding now, thousands and thousands of ISIS fighters and others, and many of those people will go home to France and Germany and UK and others, and we say, take them. No, 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 we don't want them. See, this is it. We do things for other people, and then they forget our allies. Sometimes our allies treat us worse than our enemies. I hate to say this to you, but sometimes they do. It's very sad. Did them a big favor, but that's all right. It's all working out very well. But we took out al-Baghdadi, who everybody was after. That was, you'd see him all the time speaking with a fan. That was an old picture. He was young. He got older. But they were looking for him for 16 years. And one of the first things I said when I came in is, you got to find this guy, al-Baghdadi. Yes, sir. All of a sudden, they walk in. They said, we have him, sir. We're following him all over the Middle East. He'd move from place to place to place. We're following him, sir. And then they said, sir, we have him. And I had to give an order, and I gave an order. And I'll tell you what, 66, the most incredible soldiers you've ever seen. They went in on 8 helicopters. And you know, in modern day warfare, you can watch. I mean, I'm watching it. I'm watching it from the Situation Room. You believe it? It was like, you can't make a movie like this. For instance, there's no dog like Conan. No dog. There's no dog like Conan, right? In fact, Conan, after the operation, was a tremendous success. I mean, they were looking for him for a long time. And it was a lot of violent fighting, and then ultimately we got him. He was in a tunnel, at the end of a tunnel, and Conan was going after him. Conan almost was electrocuted, you know that story, but the guys went after him, and we got him. But you wouldn't believe how great it felt. And when you saw the professionalism of these soldiers, I can't even tell you. There's nobody has a military like we have. There's nobody with the talent that we have. It's incredible. They got him, and he knew it. He knew it. He knew it. As soon as he heard that first little explosion that took him about 3 seconds, that blew the hell out of the wall, I said, why don't they go through the front door? He said, sir, you go through the front door, you got a lot of bullets coming at you. They went through a solid concrete wall. They put stuff up, boom, so fast. So now they're shooting the other guys from behind. That's much better, right? Guys have said, who's that? Who's that? Guys were unbelievable. You don't have a movie like that. And Conan was given more press than your president. I'm telling you. It was like about a half-a-day story. If somebody else would have done it, it would have been the greatest thing ever happened. But that's all right. I do it for a different reason. I do it because we have to keep ourselves safe. I do it also for all of the people that they killed and wounded. Right? They killed and wounded a lot of people. But American forces cannot be the policeman for the entire world. We're all over the world. And a lot of times we're not even appreciated. It's taken for granted. We can't be the policeman for the world. And the democracy builders, we just can't do that for every nation that seems to have difficulty, especially for those nations that don't appreciate what we do. And there are many of them, many of them. And that goes with trade also. We've changed the whole thing around. Their job is to be secure, and my job is to make sure that we're secure and to defend our country first, our country. Today, the United States For years, they've been trying to do this, and today the United States signed a deal with the Taliban so that we can hopefully begin the immediate process of finally bringing our troops back home. "19 years. 19 years we're there. Thank you. And as you know, others wanted to do it. We got it done and just signed it. And I want to thank a lot of people we really have to thank. You know who we have to thank? The families and those incredible people that lost their lives to start off with, okay? Those incredible families. I've gotten to know so many of families. And we have to thank our wounded warriors that came home missing limbs and serious, serious things. Our great wounded warriors. We're taking good care of them, too. And I want to just thank our military because, you know, we've been really a police force there for the last long time. And we're not supposed to be a police force. We're supposed to be fighting soldiers. And we could win that war very easily if we wanted to kill 1 million people that have nothing to do with it, that don't know anything about us. And it's really a great feeling. I watched the ceremony today early in the morning on our television. And Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Esper's doing a great job. So Pompeo and Esper were actually in different locations, signing with different groups. Pretty complicated deal, I have to be honest. But in exchange for the Taliban's action against al-Qaeda and other terrorists who could threaten us, we're prepared to begin those force withdrawals. And if the Taliban and the Afghan government live up to their commitments, and they may or they may not, but I think we have a lot of reason why they will. I think they will. That means that the longest war in American history by far, it's not even close, will be over. And again, the agreement was made possible by the extraordinary bravery of our American warriors, the sacrifice of these incredible people and their allies. And I want to also thank, I will say this, NATO came in and Secretary General Stoltenberg of NATO, you know, we had essentially 28 countries participating in this, and they're very happy to be out. They're very happy to be, soon to be doing other things. And I'll say this for the Taliban, they're great fighters. You know that, obviously, they're great fighters. All you have to do is ask the Soviet Union, are they great fighters? They are great fighters. But they're tired also. This is 19 years, 19 years. So I'm very happy to announce that to this group in particular. It's just sort of, I should say we scheduled it for our CPAC day, Matt. You know, we scheduled for CPAC, because what better place? But we salute those who gave their lives, and we salute all of those incredible people. And after years of rebuilding foreign nations, we are finally rebuilding our nation and taking care of our own American citizens. It's time, right? It's time. You remember recently when I took the soldiers out of Syria, and everyone said, well, we have to protect the border between Turkey and Syria. I said, why? Why? What does it have to do with us? They've been fighting for 1,000 years. What does it have to do with us? Why are we protecting the border? You can't do that. I did it. We created a safe zone. And I did leave a number of soldiers because we kept the oil. There's oil there. We kept the oil, if it's okay. So they say, he left soldiers there. No, I left soldiers to keep the oil, okay? They don't want to say that. They like to say, he kept soldiers there. He didn't tell the truth. These people are the worst. They are the worst. It would be so much easier for our country if we had a press that told the truth. It would be so much easier. Sure. Right? True. And we're also committed to ensuring that those who mean to do us harm as a nation, even as individuals, are denied admission to America. They're not allowed into our country, and we have some very, very powerful people right now. Our borders are strong. All of the 9/11 hijackers came here on visas, and we are determined to keep radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country. And we're keeping them out. Border security is also health security. In our efforts to keep America safe, my administration has taken the most aggressive action in modern history to control our borders and protect Americans from the coronavirus. Came from China. In the early stages of the foreign outbreak, I ordered sweeping travel restrictions to prevent uncontrolled spread of this disease. I took a lot of heat because I did it very early. You know, we had never done it before, Matt, never done it before. And we had never done anything like that before. So not only did we do it, but I did it very early. And that decision has been now given very good grades, like an A+++. I took a lot of heat, even from my own people, but we did the right thing. The extreme fringes called us racists for imposing these critical life-saving measures. They wanted to let infected people pour into our country. I don't think they knew how bad it was, in all fairness. But nothing will deter us from protecting the well-being of the American people. My job is to protect Americans and also, very crucially in this case, to protect Americans' health. And we'll do that, and we will do it with vigor. That is why today That is why today my administration announced new measures to protect Americans to the fullest extent possible. In addition to the existing ban on travel by most Iranian nationals, we're banning the travel of anyone who has been to Iran in the last 14 days. They're having a very big outbreak. And I say here and now, if we can help the Iranians, we're doing certain things for them now, and if we can help the Iranians, we have the greatest healthcare professionals in the world, and if we can help the Iranians with this problem, we are certainly willing to do so. We would love to be able to help them. And all they have to do is ask. We will have great professionals over there. We have the best in the world. And we're raising the State Department travel advisories for South Korea and Italy, unfortunately, including a level 4, that's the highest, do not travel. It's a do not travel advisory for several areas of both countries. There are 2 areas of each country that is very heavily infected. And we are urging Americans to exercise increased caution throughout all of Europe. We will do everything in our power to keep the virus and those carrying the infections from entering our country. As you know, we took in approximately 40 people. They were Americans, and they may have had it. Some had it, but they were put in quarantine, and it's working out. Many of them are in good shape right now, and they're better and going home. It's time for all Americans to put politics aside and to come together to work for the health, safety, and security of the American people. It'd be a great thing. Because, you know, I watch, and maybe it's a natural reflex, but I watch because we have done a great job. I mean, if nothing else, making that very early decision, weeks early. And we've done a great job. And I've gotten to know these professionals. They're incredible. And everything is under control. I mean, they're very, very cool. They've done it, and they've done it well. Everything's really under control. But when they put a mic in front of a Democrat, and the Democrat said, doesn't even know what's going on. How is Trump doing? He's doing a terrible job. Well, sadly, I'd probably say the same about them. You know, I guess it's a natural reflex. How is Donald Trump doing, Nervous Nancy? He's doing a terrible job. It's terrible. Crying Chuck Schumer, I mean, he sees a mic, he'll run 200 yards to get to a mic. He always did. In New York, same thing. He'd run hundreds of yards to find a mic. And then he'd start screaming, he's doing a terrible job. What job? I don't know. What's he working on now? Now, we have to be able to do, this is a different kind of a deal. I mean, you know, we've made great deals, we've made great trade deals, great everything, but this is different. We got to be very careful with this stuff. And if we're doing a good job, and it's really the professionals, they have to be given a lot of credit for it, because a lot of people wouldn't be able to do it. So we have to make it nonpartisan if we can. In just 3 short years under my administration, we've already achieved unprecedented victories and unrivaled gains for our citizens. As I said in my State of the Union address, we are in the midst of the great American comeback. That's what is happening. Our economy is roaring, jobs are booming, opportunity is soaring, poverty is plummeting, crime is falling, and America is stronger today than ever before. Stronger today. Our military is incredible. We have rebuilt our incredible U.S. military, revived our industrial might, and restored our standing in the world. America is respected again, respected like never before. Since my election, America has gained 7 million new jobs, 5 million more than government experts projected at the end of the last administration. They were saying the most you could possibly do is 2 million. We did 7 million. I never even said we were going to do 7 million. That's a lot of jobs. Unemployment has reached the lowest rate in over 51 years. The average unemployment rate for my administration is the lowest for any president in the history of the United States. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. The unemployment rate among African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans has reached record lows, all record lows, everyone, lowest ever. Young people have seen their wages increase by 16%, a record. And their wages are rising 3 times faster than those wages during the last 4 years of, did you ever hear of this gentleman? The Obama administration. You ever hear of him? More than 2 million millennials have gotten jobs. We have lifted 10 million people off the welfare rolls and 7 million people off of food stamps. And under the so-called Trump economy, we are actually achieving the progress, hope, and change that liberals have been falsely promising for decades, but utterly failed to deliver or produce, and it's really driving them crazy. That's why we'll probably end up with Crazy Bernie. Crazy Bernie. He's crazy. We got some beauties. We got Sleepy Joe, we got Crazy Bernie, we got Mini Mike, but I think he's out of it. I would like to spend $700 million and end up with nothing. Mini Mike. I know him well. I knew that was going to happen. That was probably the worst debate performance in the history of presidential debates. Do we agree? Has there ever been anything like that? But he's going to keep spending the money. I think this weekend he's going to, I hear his ad stop on Tuesday. He's going for Tuesday. He's going to spend a lot of money. It just shows you that you can't buy an election. I mean, it just, there's a point at which people say, you got to bring the goods a little bit, too. You got to bring the goods. Boy, did Pocahontas destroy him, I'll tell you. And look what I did to her. She choked. You know, she went out and got a test because I was killing her with a Pocahontas. Remember I said, I have more Indian blood in me than she does, and I have none. Right? I said it. I said it. Love to have some, but I have none. And she was getting hit with that name, Pocahontas. That was one of the good ones. And they said, we want you to apologize for that name. And I did. I apologized. Nobody ever heard me apologize before. I apologized. To the real Pocahontas, I apologize. But she went out and she said, oh, this guy's killing me. Remember, she was dropping like a rock. But I learned something. Never do it too early. A year and a half before the election, I said, what am I doing? I should have saved it. But that's all right. Because she had those burning embers, and then she started, but ultimately she failed. She's gone, so. But she was really mean to Mini Mike, I'll tell you, the way she treated her. He didn't know what hit him. He's going, oh, get me off of this stage. Get me off! Get me off of this stage! Well, thank you very much. We hit a nerve there, huh? Bad guy. Far-left radicals have become increasingly desperate and increasingly dangerous in their quest to transform America into a country you would not recognize, a country in which they control every aspect of American life. Just as socialist and communist movements have done all over the world, they're cracking down on all dissent and demanding absolute conformity. They want total control. They want to massively raise your taxes, bury you in regulations, take over American health care, indoctrinate our children from kindergarten to college, and you see that happening. Kids are coming home saying, what's going on here, Dad? The kids get it. But eventually, they can be taught, unfortunately. Impose a fanatical code of political correctness, bombard our citizens with fake news propaganda, and implement policies that would turn America very quickly into a large-scale Venezuela. They want to take away your money, take away your choice, take away your speech, take away your guns, take away your religion, take away your history, take away your future, and take away, ultimately, your freedom. But we will never let them do that. For many years, the radical left's sustained assault on American democracy, culture, institutions, and values went unanswered. But now we are fighting back, and we are winning like never before. We're here. We are winning, you know? There was a time I used to come to CPAC. It didn't have this kind of energy. Number one, you didn't have the president. You know, I was only going to do this for Matt once. I said, look, I'm president. I can't go to CPAC, right, Matt? I said, I can't do it. So I did it. We had a great time. Next day he calls, can you do it again next year? I said, yeah, I guess. This is like my fourth time or something, right? Or more. And I'll be here next year, okay? Yeah? Why not? Thank you. From the moment I took the oath of office, the left has pursued a relentless crusade to overturn the results of the 2016 election and sabotage our next election. You know that. It was all a big hoax, you know that. Disgraceful. We caught the dirty cop on top. Had I not fired Comey, would have been a whole different story. Would have been a whole different story. That was a great firing, I'll tell you. A lot of people said, oh, you shouldn't have done that. No, 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 just the opposite. We didn't fire him. Remember the insurance policy, right? Right? Remember that? My friend over there, you are the greatest. Thank you very much. Stand up, please. Look at him. Look at, does everybody know Jeffrey? Jeffrey Lord. What a great guy. He used to defend me on CNN, and then he defended me just a little bit too much. And they said, Jeffrey, get the hell out. And thank goodness you're on Fox now, right? He used to defend me. He used to say he's better than Ronald Reagan, and that was enough for Jeffrey. That was the end. Get out of here, Jeffrey. We don't want you anymore. He was too good. Thank you. Thank you for being here, too, Jeffrey. They're coming after me, and we fight them back. And now we're going after them because we have no choice. We have to straighten out our country. But despite the best efforts of the left-wing fanatics, their scams, schemes, slanders, they've all been discredited, totally discredited. How's Comey doing? How is, by the way, how's Bob Mueller doing? That was a great performance in Congress. Raise your right hand. What? Did you want a job in the White House, running the FBI? No. Oh, he did. He did. He did. What happened to him? That was a lie. That was a lie. We have it down. He said no. Well, it was a lie. He wanted a job. He wanted to be director of the FBI. And then they appointed him the following day into special counsel. I call it special prosecutor because special prosecutor is a much more accurate name. What they did to us, what they tried to do. And yet, can you imagine with all of that, going through all of that, with a cloud over your head like nobody's ever had, for us to have seriously done more than any other administration? I mean, it's sort of a miracle when you think. Sort of a miracle, or it's a toughness, or it's something. Maybe it's right there, right? Thank you. Thank you, God. How did we do that? How did we do it? Best economy, greatest military, greatest tax cuts in history, greatest regulation cuts in history. All those judges, those beautiful judges. 2 Supreme Court judges, great ones. But their sinister plots have been exposed and their credibility has been totally destroyed. They're still just dealing with the embers, you know, a little bit like Pocahontas. She had those embers, and she started coming up, and that was the end. But they have embers, too. They have embers. They have a lot of bad people around, but one by one, with the help of everyone here today, the American dream is back, bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. It's true. It's true. To lift up forgotten and impoverished communities, we created nearly 9,000 opportunity zones all across our country. Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott was so great. Creating jobs, opportunity, and investment. It's now pouring into the places that needed it the most. We have poor areas that haven't had 10 cents invested in them in years and years and years. And now millions of dollars are going in there. We're transforming neighborhoods. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's one of the, it's not talked about much by the media. It's one of the greatest things ever done in terms of economic development. Opportunity zones. Millions and millions of dollars are being poured, and not being poured in by the federal government. Not being poured in by the federal government. It's an incredible thing. We passed the largest package of tax cuts and reforms in American history, larger than any before. And it's incredible. You know, all my life, I've only been doing this for 5 years, okay? But all my life, I've watched politics. And it was always the guy that cut taxes. You want to cut taxes. The Democrats have a strange platform. They don't want a wall. They want people to pour in. They want to raise your taxes, right? They say, we want to raise taxes. I'm trying to say, is this like a good thing to campaign on? They want to raise taxes, right? Think of it. They want to have sanctuary cities where you protect bad people in many cases. The sanctuary cities. And by the way, we just won the big case. Did you see that? Whoa, 2 days ago. They have a sanctuary city and they don't do what we need for law enforcement. We don't have to pay them any of that money. There's billions and billions and billions. Wow, where did that come from? Where did that come from? And 40 million American families are enjoying an average of $2,200 more in their pocket thanks to a beautiful thing that Republicans really don't know about too much. You know, the Democrats like to take credit. It's called child tax credit. We took that. That was Ivanka Trump, right, Mercedes? Ivanka Trump. She wanted that so badly. We've cut a record number of job-killing regulations because regulation is stealth taxation, especially on the poor. We have cut more regulations in this administration in 3 years than any administration has cut in 4 years, in 8 years, or in one case longer than that. You know who that was? Good old FDR. We've ended the war on American energy. American energy was under siege. And I'll tell you what, we don't want to talk negatively, but if for any reason any of these characters get in there, you can forget. I mean, I don't know how you're going to win Texas, by the way. I don't know how you're going to win Pennsylvania, by the way. I don't. They don't want petroleum products. Other than that, they're wonderful, right? How about this character, Beto, right? Beto. Everyone thought, remember he said, I was born to run. I was born. He was born. That was a disaster. He said, I was born. Anybody that says he was born to run, he was born to do what I'm doing. Anybody that, I don't even say it, and I won. It's true. No, it's so presumptuous. I was born to run for president. Well, then he came out against guns, religion, and oil. And he comes from Texas. And I said, Abraham Lincoln couldn't win in Texas without those. Whatever happened to Beto? Beto, come on back, Beto. He was born to run for president. He got down to less than 1%. So many of those people are less than 1%. How can you be less than 1%? You got to be really bad. The U.S. is now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas in the entire world, by far. Never again will our country be at the mercy of hostile foreign suppliers. America has declared energy independence. I declared it. We're energy independent. Big thing. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. You ever notice in the straits, we always took care, we never got 10 cents for it. We'd keep those straits open. Nobody would dare mess around with all those countries that were making trillions and trillions and billions and billions. We kept those straits open. It was great, Jeffrey. It was beautiful what we did for these other countries. They never paid us 10 cents. We kept them open. We'd go and shoot at other ships, and we'd fight this one and fight Iran. And I said, do we ever get paid for anything? Right? But now they're saying, you know, when they were blowing up ships last year, they were saying, we'd love to get an American ship, but they don't send too many of them. We don't send too many of them over there. You know why? We have our own energy now. It's pretty good. It's gone way down. But you know who does get a lot of it? 60%. China. And I say, so let me ask you, why are we keeping the straits open for China? And others. But China gets a tremendous amount, percentage-wise tremendous, so we keep it open for them. I don't know. You had a lot of really nice people running our country over the years. Perhaps I'm not nice, but I'm doing a great job for you. Well, it's true. Yet every Democrat candidate wants to shut down American energy production. How do you do that? Including oil, natural gas, clean coal, and nuclear. They like wind. Wind. I won't repeat it, but last year the best line of the whole thing was wind, right? darling, I'd like to watch television. I'm sorry, Alice. The wind's not blowing. You can't watch the debate. That was the best line. I'm not going to go through it now because I don't like to be repetitive. Like Sleepy Joe, where he says the same thing 4 different times. Or he's got a bad habit. Ladies and gentlemen of Ohio, it's great to be with you. Joe, you're in Iowa. That was 7 times he's done that. I haven't done it once. And if I did, you know what I'd do? I'd walk off the stage because there's nothing you can do to come back from that. You can be Winston Churchill. He was a great, great speaker. Winston Churchill was pretty good, right? You could be Winston Churchill for the rest of the speech. And the press doesn't kill him. You know, he said the other night, this was really a beauty. Sleepy Joe. He said, guns have killed 150 million people in our country. And I'm watching. I said to your great First Lady, she's doing a great job. I said, First Lady. Doing a great job. She's doing a great job, very popular. She's very popular. Great style, loves our country, her father's here somewhere. Where's Victor? Where is Victor? Her father's here today. Where is Victor? Her father is here someplace. He's someplace in this massive room. There he is. Hello, Victor. Her father is great guy. But I said to our great First Lady, I like calling her First Lady. I love calling her the First Lady. She said, it's okay, you can call me Melania. Good. Okay. Now see, when I have fun like that, you know what's going to happen tomorrow? That'll be a headline. He calls her First Lady. Because they're dishonest people. We can have fun. Remember this thing? Russia, if you're listening. Remember, it was a big thing. In front of 25,000 people. Russia, if you... It was all said and done. They cut it off right at the end so that you don't see the laughter, the joke. And they said, he asked for help, right? Russia, if you're listening, very famous. They cut that thing so quick at the end because they didn't want to hear the laughter in the place and me laughing. It was just boom. These are really dishonest people. But I said to her, it's true, I said to her, let me ask you this. Did he just say that we killed 150 million people? That's half of our population. This is a terrible event. We have to find out what's going on. This is bad. This wasn't reported by the fake news. It's true. I said, I've got to check that, First Lady, because you know what? If 150 million people were killed last year by guns, and they didn't report the story. See, they didn't report it. But you know what, interestingly, though, so I said, well, his debate is dead. It's dead. Nothing he can say. At the end, they said his debate was great. He did a great job. If I would have said that, it would have been over. You know, it only takes one little phrase for me, like a little couple of words. If you mispronounce a word, you know, with all I speak, they say if he mispronounced the word the, he said the. If you mispronounce the, there's something going on, something wrong. Here's a guy said they killed 150 million people with guns and nobody even talks about it. But it is true, he's a lot of times he blows it with the, you know, you could, I don't do it. Fortunately, I don't need it yet. Hopefully, maybe someday I will. But you know what you can do? You write down the name of the state that you're speaking in. And you put it up there. And whenever you're going to say the word, you look down. I'm in Florida today, folks. I'm in Maryland. I'm in Virginia. I'm in Iowa. So they corrected him the one time. He said, Iowa. And then they said, no, Idaho. And he said, didn't I say that? No, he didn't say that. He thought they were the same. Now, he's going to have, I think, a pretty big win today, I think, based on the polls. I don't know. How the hell does he have a big win? Can you imagine? And I don't know, maybe we should do, you know, I did a poll last night, right? Should I do that here? Am I allowed? You promise you're not going to charge me? You know, these pollsters, you know, they're the other ones. Like the Fox pollster is the worst of all. But I don't know, Fox is good, but the pollster's so bad. Fox is good, you know, they're okay. But they're okay. They put certain people on, you know, they have a good show, and then they put these people, the never-Trumpers, on at the end. There's nothing you can do to recover from that. But, you know, the pollsters are very phony, a lot of them. Some of it's worse than the actual journalists and reporters and stories. But last night I did it in South Carolina. It was incredible. And we had, what would you say, like Madison Square Garden almost, right? It was, that thing was packed, thousands and thousands of people. And we took a poll. Who would be my best person to run against? In other words, who would I like? Who would I do best against? Okay, to put it in very plain language, who the hell would I beat the easiest, right? And I took a poll. And I'll tell you the results, but let's do it here, right? I mean, this group is, okay. So, Pocahontas, we don't have to waste our time with, right? Klobuchar, we don't have to waste it, right? Let's not waste a lot of time, okay? Buttigieg, I don't see it. To me, every time I look at that face, I see Alfred E. Newman. It's true. No, it's true. It's Alfred E. Alfred E. Newman, Mad Magazine. See, the problem is most of you are too young. All these beautiful young women up here, they don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But the old ones, the ones with the white hair, they know exactly. They're laughing like hell, but it's true. Somebody said, use howdy doody because everyone knows. I said, no, that's no good. It's got to be perfecto. And Alfred E. Newman's perfecto, but you're going to have to go back and get Mad Magazine, which I guess is out of business for a long time, like most other magazines, right? But it was one of those things where I didn't add his name. Then we went to Mini Mike. I said, I don't see it. Should we add his name? I don't see it. He's going to have to spend a hell of a lot of money really fast because he's getting killed in California. He's losing in Texas. He's losing all over the place. How the hell do you spend that much money and lose? You know, they had an article in, of all places, the New York Times, and it had the amount of personal money, not money you raised, personal money that somebody put up, and how they did. And they started off with Mike Bloomberg, and I think he's like at $500 million, 500, more than 500. This is personal money. He writes checks like a drunken sailor, if I can use that expression. How much? You think those consultants, I know some of his people, they're bad people, they are ripping him off. He's got a couple of people right at the top. They are ripping him off. They are laughing all the way to the bank. Keep running, Mike. Mike, keep running. You're going to do it, Mike. Give us another $300-400 million. I guarantee you the presidency, Mike. Now he's looking, I promise you $500 million, and I'm down at 10%. What the hell are you doing to me? Why did you make me do this, he says. No, but I know some of his people. They are ripping him off like you never believe. So I said, should we put Mini Mike in there? I don't see it, right? No? Okay, I don't see Mini Mike. People got wise to him really fast. Didn't take too long. You know, you still have to, you can't buy, it showed something nice. I mean, assuming that happens, I don't think. You can't buy an election. You really can't buy, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And there are a lot of campaign finance violations there. There's no way you can do what he's doing. You know, you go into a town, you give somebody a contribution, 2 days later, the guy comes, I'd like to support Mini Mike Bloomberg. There's something strange with that whole deal. So we have two names. We have one is Crazy Bernie. He's crazy. And we have, he's like a crazy professor. And we have the other one is Sleepy Joe Biden, right? So let's take a poll, we'll go Biden first. Scream like hell if you think I should run against him, right? Is that okay? In other words, because we're going to beat him. Who will we beat? So scream like hell. So Sleepy Joe Biden. All right. This is, would you like me to run against him? Crazy Bernie Sanders. You can't charge me. You cannot charge me for that. Matt's going to send me a bill for that. Now think of it. These pollsters, you ever see this crap? We interviewed 193 people. 100. With a plus or minus 3. You have thousands of people in here. I got it for free. But Mercedes will send me a bill, I guarantee you that. For a free poll. So look, that happened last night too. I did the same thing. They think that Crazy Bernie, how could you be easier to beat than Joe? The guy can't put 2 sentences together. It's insulting. How can you be easier? But, he is more down the middle. Everyone knows he's not a communist, right? And with Bernie, there's a real question about that. But he's definitely a radical left socialist Democrat. And people know that. With Joe, he's sort of down the middle, The difference is Joe's not going to be running the government. He's just going to be sitting in a home someplace. And people are going to be running it for him. And they will be radical left socialists. So that's what you have to remember. There's no way he's going to be running the government. But we're reversing decades of calamitous trade policies, breaking up the unholy alliance of lobbyists, globalists, and special interests that bled our country, bled our factories, and bled our people dry. We understand that conservative policies must conserve our jobs, conserve our manufacturing, and conserve our American way of life. What we've done for manufacturing. Look at all the manufacturing jobs. It's all coming back. Obama said, never happened, never happened. And it would never happen. And he said, you can keep your doctor. Why didn't they impeach him for saying that? Remember, 28 times, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan. It was a lie. Impeach him. America lost 1 in 4 manufacturing jobs following the twin disasters of NAFTA and China's entrance into the WTO. The worst 2 deals ever made in, now I say, see with all the women, humankind. I used to say mankind. Sounded sort of good. Now I say humankind. I don't use it that much. Right? The women know what I'm talking about. The women get it better than the men. The women get it better. They named me Time Magazine Person of the Year, right? Now, this year I lost to Greta. Greta. I lost to Greta. I said, who? I'm not going to get involved in that because last time I got in a little trouble. But I lost to Greta. But it doesn't matter. I've won it, enough. I mean, in all fairness, when the whole world evolves around this person, I don't say good, bad, but you turn on that stupid CNN, you turn on MSDNC, you turn on Fox, every story is Trump or Trump related, right? If a plane goes down with 700 people on it, they don't even cover it anymore. That used to be a big event. They don't cover it anymore. It's really unfair. But it's been, by the way, have we all had a great time, though? This journey, right? This journey has been amazing. I tell the story. A month before I ran, I said to my wife, well, I'm thinking about it. Said to a couple, I'm thinking about it. Didn't think too much about it. I thought about it like a day before I ran. But I remember seeing the New York Times. It came to my office. I held it up. It was like a thing you hand out at a grocery store. It would have blown away with a little wind, about 2 miles an hour. It would have blown away. That was the New York Times. Now it's a vibrant paper. But when I'm no longer here in 5 years or 9 years or 13 years or 17 years, 21, 25. No, they actually think I'm not leaving, This crazy Bill Maher, you ever hear this guy? He says, he's not leaving. He has a guest, some guest, that didn't have a clue. And the guest, he said, Trump is going to win. You know that, don't you? He's going to win. You know he's going to win, don't you? Like it's devastated, Bill Maher. It's a nut job. You know he's going to win. And the guest says, no, we're going to fight very hard. We think we have a good chance. No, he's going to win. And then you know what? He's never leaving, don't you? He's never leaving. No, he's never leaving. No, he's got it worked. He will never leave. There's no way. And I used to think he was kidding. He's not. He is a total nut job, this guy. But under my administration, the great betrayal of America is over. It is no longer for sale. Last month, we ended the NAFTA catastrophe, and I signed the brand new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement into law. Great job. The USMCA is a gigantic victory for farmers, ranchers, manufacturers, and workers all across our country. And by the way, speaking of farmers, something they don't know, but they're learning fast, no more estate tax on your small farms, small businesses, small other things. No more estate tax. People don't talk about it. It's a big thing, big provision. Big provision. If you love your children, it's great. If you don't love your children, it's irrelevant. Don't leave the money to them. But, you know, in years gone by, great farmers, they have a good land, good everything, but they don't make that much cash. It's a tough business, right? And the banks would come in, loan money to the children, and the banks would end up owning the property, and all hell was going on. It was terrible. No more estate tax, or as we call it, death tax. No more on small farms and small businesses. Great thing. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about that, but it's a big thing. If you love your children. If you don't, does anybody here not love your children? Raise your hand, please. Look at that, not one hand. Well, that's conservative people. They all love their children. Right? Now, there's one hand in the back. I'm not calling. I also took the strongest ever action to confront China's illicit trade practices. You see what happened there. And our strategy worked, and we have a great relationship with China now. We have a very good relationship. They didn't even respect us. They were taking out $500 billion a year. We had a trade imbalance. We had a deficit of more than $500 billion with a B dollars a year. Can you believe that? Who the hell can sustain? Who wants to even talk about that? So we started charging tariffs. They hit our farmers. I gave the farmers everything that they took out, and the money came from China because it came out of the tariffs, and we had a lot of money left over. A long, complicated story, but not really complicated. No other president ever thought of it. And now the farmers love me, and we ended up making a great deal. But they loved me before. You know, the farmers, when they'd go to CNN, would go up, "Isn't it terrible what President Trump is doing to you with the trade war?" He says, "No, it's hurting me badly, but the trade war is necessary, and it should have been done years ago." Everyone, I've never heard anybody say different. I've never heard anybody say different. The farmers are unbelievable. But I went to Sonny Perdue, our Secretary of Agriculture. I said, "So let me ask you, China's tough, they're smart. They hit them. How much did they take out last year? $12 billion. How much did they take out this year? $16 billion. That was last year." I said, 16 billion, 12 billion, good. We're going to give them back the 12 billion. Then we gave back the 16. Everything they took out. I said, what was the best year they ever had with China? It was 16 billion. I said, good. I'll reimburse them the 16 billion out of the tariffs that China's paying. And by the way, you know, China respects this, just so you understand. You know, other presidents knew that they were getting ripped off. They didn't know what to do about it. They said, they'll attack our farmers. All the farmers will go bust. They didn't know. Charge them tariffs, pay them back, and then keep a hell of a lot more money than you're even giving to the farmers. And we kept tens of billions of dollars, and we made our first deal, and Schumer went, "It's terrible, the deal." He took the tariffs out. Now, nobody wanted tariffs until I taught them what tariffs are. But it's terrible, he took the tariffs out. Actually, I didn't. They're paying 25% on $250 billion. I don't even know how we pulled off that one. But they're paying. But China's great, and now they want to negotiate phase 2 because they want to stop paying the 25% on $250 billion. Otherwise, we have no leverage, right? We have no leverage. But the farmers are the greatest. And even before they knew I was going to be able to reimburse them all that money that was being taken out of their pockets, they said to me, I had 25 farmers in the White House, right in the cabinet room. I used the cabinet room. Everybody else used it only for the cabinet. I use it for everything but the cabinet. No, I use it for farmers. We have beautiful, it's this incredible room, right? This incredible room. And I said to the farmers, I said, you know, I want to give you back money. I want to give you a subsidy. Oh, we don't want the word. They didn't want, everybody else, they didn't care what I used. I could use subsidy. I could use welfare. I could use any word I wanted. The farmers hated the word subsidy. Sir, we don't want anything. We just want a level playing field. It's been this way for 20 years, and it's been absolutely hurting us. They didn't want anything. And I said, you know, are you serious? They said, yeah, we just want a level playing field. Nobody can beat us, and it's true. Nobody can beat. They want a level playing field. And I said to myself, can you imagine? Everybody that comes in, countries, other businesses, everybody, they want money. The farmers don't. They just wanted a level playing field. And that was at the bottom when they really were looking. It was looking pretty bad. But now China's going to be buying $50 billion worth of product. The most they ever got was 16, so they're buying 50. We agreed to 20. And in the final day, they were getting the agreements ready. I said, how much are the farmers getting? Meaning, how much is China going to purchase from our farmers? 20 billion. I said, do me a favor, make it 50. They said, 50. I said, the farmers can't do that much, can they? I said, no. China said, absolutely not. I said, look, what does it mean? You got 1.5 billion people. What the hell difference between 20 billion and 50? It doesn't mean anything. They said, you're right. We'll give you 50. It's crazy. It's crazy. My only problem is I don't think the farmers can produce that much. It's going to be very good to be a farmer when that whole thing kicks in. We understand that our First Lady and highest, and you have to remember this, when our First Lady came out, she said to me today, say hello to everybody. And she said that your first duty and your highest loyalty, and this was coming right from her, is to the American citizens. And you really have to let the people know. This is, Melania told me this. Can you believe this? She's like giving me a history lesson. Our First Lady is giving me a history. Our highest loyalty to the American people. I said, okay. That was pretty good. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll tell her. I'll tell her that was the single best line in the whole speech. Okay. Nowhere has the American left more thoroughly violated this sacrosanct principle than on immigration. Illegal immigration costs American taxpayers hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Funds that could be used to improve our schools, roads, hospitals, and other vital services. Instead, Democrats want to take even more of your money to give illegal aliens free health care, free federal welfare, free education. They get treated better than they want to treat our military and our vets. And I stopped it, but it's crazy. The Democrat Party's immigration policies empower bloodthirsty cartels that maim, murder, and torture, that smuggle and traffic innocent human beings, that flood our communities with poisonous drugs. The left's immigration policies are not compassionate. They're heartless, merciless, and cruel. Countless Americans are killed every year by criminal aliens. These are illegal aliens that come in, and they are, in many cases, very bad people. In Houston, Texas, an illegal alien was charged with the murder for killing a 75-year-old grandmother in her home, stabbing her with a vicious machete knife 13 times in the chest. In Georgia, an illegal alien was charged with murder for killing, beheading, and dismembering his neighbor. Yet despite these travesties, the far left supports deadly sanctuary cities where people like that get protection, that release criminal alien predators into innocent communities rather than handing them over to our great heroes of ICE. ICE, they take such abuse. ICE, the toughest gangs in the world, MS-13, they slice people up. ICE takes them out by the thousands. Nobody else wants that job. The men over here don't want that job, I can tell you right now. They're tough, and they love our country, but they got to be tough. Last year, California's sanctuary law forced a single county to release over 1,000 convicted criminal aliens, and nearly 240 have already been arrested, and they're looking for others. And those are just the crimes that we know about. Montgomery County, Maryland, announced a sanctuary policy last July. Since then, at least 10 illegal immigrants have been arrested for sex crimes, including the rape of an 11-year-old girl. In Seattle, officials released a known MS-3, think of this, This was a known MS-13 gang member who later beat a 16-year-old boy with a baseball bat and hacked him to death with a machete. The list goes on and on and on, and these people are protected by their sanctuary city fools. In my State of the Union address, I called on Congress to pass legislation allowing the victims of these deadly policies to sue these sanctuary cities for the pain, anguish, and suffering they inflict on our people. Everyone here today and patriotic citizens all across our land agree with the fundamental truth. Our country must be a sanctuary for law-abiding Americans, not for criminal aliens. The left's crazy mantra is no borders, no nations, and no more deportations. They don't want to deport. Crazy Bernie said he'll never do a deportation, right? Remember what he said? I better save this stuff. Maybe he won't get the nomination. I won't say that. He said he thinks the Boston bombers, right? The Boston guys, right? He said they have the right to vote. He said prisoners in prison have the right to vote. They said, does that include the Boston maniac that's scheduled to die, death penalty, which is very good? But does that include that? He said, yes, he would get the right to vote. You believe that? That this guy would get the right to vote. So I said, I won't use that until later on. And I used it today at CPAC. And now he'll find a way of getting out of it, and I won't be able to use it against him in a campaign. That's no good. See what I do here, Matt? That's too bad. Too early. I got to wait till about 2 months before the vote, right? Right? She's going, yes, please wait. Except then you wouldn't have enjoyed that. But it's true. It's true. Yeah, it's okay for him to vote. It's fine. He killed many people, badly maimed and wounded many people, and he's got the right to vote. Can you believe that this is where we've come? We believe in strong borders, sovereign nations, and the prompt deportation of anyone who illegally breaks into our country. And thanks to our tireless efforts to secure the border, we have reduced illegal crossings by a staggering 75%. We have ended catch and release, the worst of all the loopholes. Nice hat. We have seized a record amount of drugs and deported a record number of gang members. We are building the powerful border wall. We're already up to 128 miles of border wall. And you think that was easy? It's being built. And it's being built to the highest standard you can build it. You know, just to show you again about the news. So we're building it, and part of it's desert. It's rough territory and very tough territory in many ways. But the winds are blowing, and they're putting it up, and it's 30 feet high, steel and concrete both. And you have to be able to see through it. Very expensive. It's the ultimate wall in terms of, we went to Border Patrol. They did studies. They hired people, climbers. What's the hardest to climb? The piece on top. That's called an anti-climb provision. Supposedly it makes it harder, who knows? But I said, do it, another couple of bucks. But we put up a wall, and it was blowing 50, 60 miles an hour in this territory. The concrete was just poured, it was soaking wet. The wall came down, and we end up with a big story. Trump's wall gets blown over by the wind. That's what it is. But I explained, because when you have Twitter, where you have so many millions of people, all you have to do is say, scam, scam. We can get the word out. Now we lifted it right back up and put it back, and we held that sucker in place until the concrete dried. And they don't like to report that. It's really, but that's, you know, that's what we have to go through. It's a very sad situation. Another grave threat facing our country. And by the way, on the wall, so we're up to over almost 130 miles of wall. Think of that. But, I mean, really amazing. But think of it. But then they say, all right, so he's building the wall. You have to understand, I had an entire party against me, and a party that controls the House now. And we're going to take back the House. We have to take it back. We have to take it back to these lunatics. From these lunatics. We have to take back the House. All right? We have to take that. No, but think of that. But so now they like to say, all right, so he's building the wall, but Mexico's not paying for it. Yes, they are, actually. You know what I mean, right? They are paying for it. They're paying for it. Oh, they're going to die when I put in this, what we're going to do. But no, they're paying for it. And they're okay with it because they understand that's fair. But no, Mexico's paying for it, and it's every bit, it's better than the wall that was projected. We're doing it at a higher level. We have so many gadgets on that wall, you wouldn't even believe it. Sensors, we have things. Remember, they wanted drones. They said, he doesn't need a wall. These people all 6 years ago, they wanted a wall. And I tell people I made one big mistake. I should have said, instead of we will build a wall, people went crazy. Look at you. We've been doing this for years. I could get elected twice over the wall. Can you believe this? No, but look at it. People go crazy. But just take a look. We have a wall. People want a wall. And what are the two things, no matter how technological we get with the computers and the airplanes and everything's going, two things that will never change. A wall and a wheel, right? A wheel and a wall. And if you come back 1,000 years from now, it'll still be a wall and a wheel. Remember they used to say, he doesn't need a wall. We'll give him a drone. Oh, that's great. We could have a drone watching everybody pour across it. But the mistake I made, I should have said, we will not build the wall. Then they would have made me build the wall, right? I would have had all the money I could have gotten. It could have been so much easier instead of had to go through years. But we won all of those cases. They got sued by everybody. We got sued by politicians that didn't know they were politicians even. We had a lot of suits, so we won. We won all those suits. Another grave threat facing our country is the effort from Washington Democrats to completely demolish our health care system, jeopardizing the health of millions of people. While congressional Democrats embrace Crazy Bernie's socialist health care takeover, we are defending America's right to keep the doctor and the plan of your choice. We are ending surprise medical billing, just happened. We are imposing price transparency bigger than health care. We are protecting our veterans, and we will always protect patients with pre-existing conditions. Health care is a big, big part of what we're doing. Democrats have declared their unlimited support for extreme late-term abortion, ripping babies straight from the mother's womb right up until the very moment of birth. And that is why I've asked Congress to prohibit late-term abortion of babies, because every child is a sacred gift from God. Thank you. In my State of the Union address, I also asked Congress to pass legislation providing 1 million American children access to school choice, because no child should ever be trapped in a failing government school. And with the help of many of the people in this room today, we passed criminal justice reform to reduce recidivism and to help former inmates successfully rejoin society. We are helping prisoners like you wouldn't believe, people that are in, like Alice Johnson. You saw Alice Johnson, right? She served 22 years, made a phone call, and she's not trying to defend herself from the phone call. 22 years, she had another 20 or so to go, and we got her out. She's a great woman. Through our pledge to America's workers, employers are providing millions of marginalized workers with the skill they need to transition from government dependence to self-reliance. That's what we need, and we need people. To defend the rule of law, we have confirmed a record number of judges who will interpret the Constitution as written. That'll be nice. And we have appointed our two great new Supreme Court justices, as I said, Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh. As the radical left moves aggressively to curtail freedom of speech, we are proudly defending free speech, including our college campuses. Any college that refuses to respect your First Amendment rights now risks the loss of billions and billions of federal taxpayer dollars. I signed that a few months ago because these colleges, they take our money and then they don't let people speak. So now they won't take our money, and I guess they can do whatever they want, but they're not going to get money. It's billions of dollars we're talking about. We're also combating anti-Semitism on college campuses. We're stopping the flow of taxpayer money to colleges and universities that support anti-Semitic hate. And we've invested nearly $2.2 trillion to build up the unmatched strength of the United States military, $2.2 trillion. And for the first time in over 70 years, the Air Force being the last, we created a new branch of the American Armed Forces called the Space Force. Together, we have revitalized the values, traditions, and principles that have always defined American greatness. Citizens of every age, race, color, and creed are rejecting the left's insanity and joining us in the fight to save this glorious nation. And that's what we're doing. We're saving this nation. Every day, our movement grows bigger, bolder, and broader, and America's future gets brighter, brighter, and brighter. Our movement is united by a towering spirit of patriotism, a profound and abiding love for our fellow Americans, and a deep reverence for the rights and liberties given to each of us by the hand of Almighty God. We know that America is the greatest nation to ever exist. We know that America is the strongest force for good in the history of the world. And we know that America is the home of the toughest men and the strongest women ever to walk the face of the earth. This is the home of our ancestors, carved out of the wilderness, the home of our forefathers, shed their blood, the home of our children. And this is the home that we want. This is the home that we want our children to inherit. We will love and cherish and protect this nation forever. For all of the soaring heights that we've reached, we know that there are still more records to be shattered, new summits to be scaled, more triumphs to be realized, and more amazing history just waiting to be written. The American adventure has only just begun. With your help, and the good Lord's grace, we will continue to push onward to our nation's magnificent destiny. We will continue to make our republic the inspiration, the glory, and the envy of the world. As long as we are confident in our values, loyal to our citizens, and faithful to our God, there is no limit to what we can achieve. The United States of America will always march on to victory. America is thriving like never before. And ladies and gentlemen, the best is yet to come. I want to thank Matt. I want to thank Mercedes. I want to thank the great patriots of CPAC. God bless you. God bless America, and we will see you next year. Thank you very much.
connection. A glass of wine in her hand. I knew she was gonna meet her connection. At her feet was a footloose man. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, well, you might find you get what you need.
I've learned so much about this deep state swamp. They didn't have our president's back.
We have the highest consumer confidence in history. These attacks.
Everything he's done and promised that we talked about, has already happened or is going to happen. I can't believe anyone in our country would not want to keep going down that path.
If Americans sit back and let a bunch of elites in Washington, D.C. or in their state capitals determine how they're going to live their lives, this whole American experiment is over.
You get this bubble that goes on there where they think that only the people who are inside that bubble are the best and brightest, and only those people know how to tell other people how to live their lives. I think that's the most dangerous thing about Washington, D.C., New York, the Acela corridor.
Donald Trump couldn't find Ukraine on a map if you had the letter U and a picture of an actual physical crane next to it. The credulous boomer Rube demo that backs Donald Trump, that wants to think that Donald Trump's a smart one, and there, y'all elitists are dumb.
You could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
You elitists with your geography and your maps and your spelling.
Many who support the present administration are either racist, steeped in religious beliefs, ignorant, or as my mother used to say, just plain dumb.
All those lines on the map.
Only them elitists know where Ukraine is.
Do you think that people who support President Trump and his immigration policies are racist?
Anyone who supports this is supporting racism.
The racist, sexist, homophobic.
My math and you're reading.
Yeah, you're reading. Your geography, knowing other countries, sipping your latte.
Xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
They really do look down their noses at least half of America. It's no wonder their ratings are in the tank.
You know what you can go do?
I can't say that.
We are in Reno, Nevada for the first annual CPAC West.
Thousands gathered at Corley Ranch to express their concerns about the current political climate.
We believe so strongly in ensuring that America stays strong, stays free, and doesn't turn into a socialist country.
It's nice to see like-minded people, because sometimes I feel like we're a little isolated.
Yeah. We're outnumbered.
Yes.
That's what you would think if you were watching the mainstream, or what people call the mainstream media.
The crowd completely understands the Trump phenomenon. Why? Because he's taken on the left and he's taken on the media elite. And he is willing to keep fighting for the American people.
You were there yesterday. You just came from Minnesota, and today we're kind of planting the flag in Nevada to say that this is conservative country.
It's very different from the East Coast elites that we find so often. It's the rugged individualist. It's this John Wayne kind of...
First up, he is the chairman of the American Conservative Union, my old job. Matt Schlapp is very brave to come here. Matt Schlapp in the Lion's Den.
I don't know if you see a lot of liberal media.
I do. I actually appear on a lot of liberal media.
You're here. Exactly.
That's right.
That's right.
And I think it's a big mistake to say that Donald Trump is somehow a dishonest political leader. He went around this country and said the 7, 8, 9 things that he intended to do.
He lies.
And he is a rare politician. Not true.
What?
Not true.
Matt,
I reject that.
Please. Come on, man.
Name one lie. If you think there's a crime, you give me the code right now. Give me the code. What's the crime?
Matt,
don't say that I'm lying.
It doesn't have to be a crime, Matt. You know that.
It has to be a crime or a misdemeanor. It's in the Constitution.
Matt,
why don't you just
play the video of
Lindsey Graham saying over and over? Lindsey Graham was wrong.
Interpretation.
Lindsey Graham was wrong. He's not one of our founding fathers, Anna. I know he's a great guy and all.
Matt Schlapp, you are such a fighter. Everybody knows who this guy is. Come on, man.
Can we talk about the economy? Can we talk about guns?
How are you going to pay for the tax
talk about
cut?
the issues?
Yes, we can. I got to go now, though.
Let's not talk about any more Russian collusion. Well, it's not going to do any good.
I am not somebody who believes in beating a dead horse. I think that
the horse